Hi, folks. Welcome to the next edition of Serverless Craic with me, Dave Anderson, technical developer voice and author and contributor at the Serverless Edge.
I'm Mark McCann, author and contributor at Serverless Edge, architect at Globalization Partners.
Hey everyone, Michael O'Reilly, architect with Globalization Partners and a contributor with the Serverless Edge. Hello.
So, how are we all doing?
Okay.
Today, we decided we'd have a chat about what are the principles or tenets for a high-performing serverless first team, or maybe even a high-performing modern cloud team. We had a list we worked on, I think it was 2019. We wrote a list of 8 tenets that we often joke that it took us 10 years to think of the tenets. It took us 10 minutes to write it. So I thought it might be useful to just go through that list and see if they still make sense. 3 years later?
Yeah.
It's way longer, but yeah, as you say.
I think it could have been 2018, so I can't remember. I think it was 2019.
Yeah.
Let's go through them and we'll see if they still stand up. The first one we had was, and we used the term a high-performing serverless first team. It could also apply to a high-performing modern cloud team. So the first one is chase a business outcome or a KPI.
Yep.
Really, what was behind that is a team should know what business KPI they're working towards.
Yeah, you should be able to tap a person on the shoulder and tell me what you're working on and what business impact the work that you're doing is going to have, and they should be able to articulate that.
Yeah, I mean, a guardrail to move in at speed and velocity is making good decisions and really understanding your priorities and how you prioritize. And I think the only way to safely do that is to always tap back to, the success of what you're doing, the product. Like so start out, we talk about Northstars all the time.
Yeah.
So track your way back from the profitability, how the business success down to what you're doing, and how you're having an impact on that. And I think, that's how you make good decisions and move fast. So this one stands up very strongly today, I think.
Yeah.
I think
big thing about Northstar.
Yeah, Northstars are critical, and like a lot of these principles or tenets, we're not putting them out there. We didn't put them out there in teams and then not give them any sort of guidance on how to actually achieve them or align to them. So the Northstar is a great one. We did a lot of Northstar workshops to help teams understand if they didn't have a good grasp of what their KPIs and their Northstars were for their business.
Well, I'm not sure if we ever explained this, but there's a really simple thought behind that. You ask a team their KPI. If the team says, I don't know, then you run a Northstar workshop. Yep. If after the Northstar workshop, nobody can think of a KPI, the next step is, should the team be doing this work?
Exactly.
And that was that did happen a few times. Like, folks, you shouldn't be doing that. That really isn't that important. Yeah. And it's not that they're a bad team. It's just you've been asked to do the wrong stuff. Yeah, that definitely stands up. Number 2 was be secure by design. Like, that was secure development for us for a long time, and then AWS came out with secure by design, so we just stole it, which I admit. But I really like that tenet. It's don't do security afterwards, bake it in from the start. It's everyone's job, period, full stop.
Yeah, such a difficult thing to retrofit. So yeah, threat models, get it done early, try and solve for what you can, what you know.
Yeah, bake it into all your engineering practices, bake it into your pipelines, shift it all left to help enable teams to be more secure, all that good stuff.
Yeah, don't say it's too hard, we're not doing it, because the next project, guess what? You haven't done it. So start today, bake it in, and that's it.
Yeah, and there's a good reason why, are you aligned with the business? Is the business success number 1? And then are you secure is number 2 here? Because if, security has a massive risk profile if you don't do it right, and it can be existential for businesses if you don't have a secure solution. So 1 and 2 is in good order there.
Yep. Yeah. That was very, very deliberate. Remember that. The third one was keep a high throughput of work. That was kind of borrowed from the DORA metrics from the Accelerate book by Nicole Forsgren. I always liked the 4 Accelerate metrics, and nobody ever understood that 2 are for throughput and the other 2 are for stability. So this is just high throughput, which is kind of deployment frequency and lead time.
Yeah, I think I think around the time when we were trying to articulate this, the Accelerate book was really, coming out and really starting to be leveraged. So again, it gives us better language and better sort of external validation of the things that we were saying to teams. Hey, here's the accelerator book. Here's all the DORA research metrics that back this up. Here's actionable things you can do to quantify your velocity, your development, your deployment frequency, your lead time. So I think again, these are well picked, and I think all the stuff that came afterwards really supported that and reinforced the need for these principles.
Yeah, I think for serverless teams, key to this one is make changes fast, frequent, always be learning, drive observability, as you say, Mark, just really core to what you do in terms of moving with speed. And so I think this one, definitely still 100%.
It drives a lot of the right behaviors around removing impediments to fast flow. Really questioning your dependencies. Why can't we be in the elite category? Why do we have this dependency on this group or another group, or why can we not deploy on demand? Why can we not deploy multiple times a day? It really helps teams think about this in the right way.
Yeah.
Lots of funny stories in this one. If you will indulge me, I remember talking to a monthly release team who were very angry that they didn't want to do extra work. They were like, our throughput is 1 per month, 12 a year. We're not measuring it. I was like, you already have measured it. So, it's not much work for you. Number 2, what happens if you get a 0-day security vulnerability? You're going to break everything because you don't know how to release. And they were like, oh, yeah, I see what you mean. And has the business actually asked you that they don't want anything for another month? No, they haven't. So that was a very interesting and amusing conversation.
I know Charlie Major says stuff like speed is stability. If you the more frequently you do something, the more you deploy to production, you're actually improving your stability because you smooth out the pathways, you smooth out the error conditions, you bake it into your pipelines and automate a lot of the stuff that could go wrong, right? Because you're going so fast.
You're good at it. And that leads us on to, that's why these things are paired, because number 4 is reliably run a high stability system. Again, that's the other 2 DORA metrics, throughput and stability, which is just what you're saying there with Charlie Majors. Yeah.
And I think this one's great because in a lot of the discussions we're having, it's with our test teams and our QA teams and sort of software engineers and test, this really drives the need for that investment in world-class quality and testing capabilities and practices, right? So if you're not stable, well, where's the gap? What scenarios have you not covered? What behaviors have you not covered? What chaos engineering things have you missed out on? What gaps do you have in your test suites to really make sure that stability is there? So again, it drives the right behaviors.
Well, it drives the right sort of evolution, I think. When you look at 3 and 4, you can't achieve any of them if you've got things in the middle or handoffs, or you're dumping things over walls, right? So it's promoting that sort of ownership and and to really get at those sort of elite kind of scores, you really got to know what you're doing and embrace that approch. So 100% on those. I think they're really good. They help us sort of modernize and shape and move teams towards that way of working. So I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
We set a high bar with these. I'm just thinking. Number 5 was rent or reuse with build as a final option. How do you do that? Serverless.
Yeah. But I would even say serverless and SaaS, and so again, you don't necessarily you'd find, certainly from our background, you're very used to just going straight to the workspace and in the 4C diagram and kind of going, right, this is what we're doing. We're coding. So really just that's a complete mindset type thing, right? What if we could, so it's a very healthy kind of tenet principle to embrace.
Yeah, it's back to the knowing your business purpose and knowing your business KPIs. If you can achieve the business outcomes without doing any code, that's the way you're most optimal. If you can leverage a SaaS offering that does what you need, that's probably next. And then it's into okay, we need to build this, right? Then I'm following a serverless first mindset and approach. I'm going to use all the serviceful sort of offerings, right? Managed services before I do anything.
What do you two think about this? I'm not a big fan of hero kind of developers and hero kind of mentality. You can kind of over the years, you've kind of used this one to kind of, okay, guys, no, we're just going to use this off the shelf. Less code. code as
democratize
all that, you know.
Yeah, democratize engineering. Yeah, you don't want a superhero building something that no one understands
all the time. It's the hardest
Yeah.
thing, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, very good. Number 6 was continuously optimize the total cost. I always thought this was the best question to ask any team, because good teams will tell you how much their cloud costs are, and just loads of teams have no idea.
Yeah.
So this was always a great measure of a good team, that they would cost was front of mind.
And I would add, they would also tell you how much they cost and you know, how much they cost to actually do what you're asking them to do, and they'll give you good sort of advice and guidance on that as well, and be kind of get straight to the ROI and give you good projected kind of ROIs and stuff as well. So yeah, solid principle there. Like,
yeah, I think the a good team will tell you their run cost. A great team will tell you the total cost of ownership of the whole thing. And the really great teams will almost get into like a worth-based development type conversation about how much features cost and how much revenue they bring in and how impactful they are to the business. One thing I would add to this one is, and it's a fantastic question, but it really gets to the how can we mature the teams? How can we evolve the teams so that they can answer this one readily, right? But I think the total cost is now going to include your carbon footprint, your sustainability cost will factor into that total cost. So when you're optimizing your total cost, you're not only optimizing for financial costs, you're also optimizing now for carbon footprint, right? And that should hopefully drive conversations about where's the most ecologically friendly region to put your workload in. And we've talked about this before, and the sustainability pillar and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, very good. And then, so number 7 is build event-driven via strong APIs. This sounds very easy, but I was talking to Sam Dangler earlier, and he was saying, he's like, nobody's still doing this properly. It's like we've been talking about this for 20 years. It's still a mystery to most people, proper integration. It makes sense, but it's not easy.
No, and again, it's moving fast is making sure that you've got the right things in the right places, but also at the right size, and then sort of having things that are composable. But it's kind of breaking things up into their smallest constituent parts, so you can kind of change things as frequently as possible. I always find that this one takes a lot of evolution, and you evolve through the different kind of levels of complexity, and it does take time. But you should always be thinking about it. Like teams new to serverless, new to that way of working, will always kind of reinvent what they know, tiered kind of systems, but over time, eventing, it definitely becomes.
And I think that the principles we have higher up there around high throughput and high stability, if you're trying to get into those elite categories, it almost drives you towards getting towards a loosely coupled event-driven architecture. So it gives you much more autonomy, gives you much more freedom, gives you much more ability to deploy when you're ready, because you are event-driven, you are loosely coupled, you have these strong APIs that sort of give you that autonomy, I guess, and architecturally bake in that autonomy, and with the right sort of team alignment around that, you can really go fast. You can be in those elite groups, right? So I think this one, a lot of these principles sort of tenets bounce off each other, right? So if you're trying to influence one and trying to get good at one, you almost have to have some of the other ones in place as well.
Yeah, that's hard. I was enjoying people thinking layers, but they try and do event-driven, but you have to go through layers. It's like, that's not event-driven.
Yeah, I think a lot of the facilitated practices have really come to the fore in the last couple of years. Like there's lots of good stuff from the DDD crew. There's lots of great sort of event storming from Alberto and the event bridge storming from Ben Ellerby and code. So there's lots of really good hands-on facilitated techniques that demystify this a little bit and make it a bit more hands-on, a bit more approachable for squads to really get the benefits of a event-driven architecture.
Yeah, definitely. Then number 8 was one of my favorites. Build solutions that fit in their heads. Against reused from Dan North, who I always loved his phrase, is that don't be building crazy systems that are too complicated. And for me, this became a nice nod towards team topologies and setting out proper boundaries. Like we've all seen teams be the victim of crazy architectures, big balls of mud, where there's just too much to fit in your head, and the cognitive load just breaks people.
I think the other one is I really like this one, and And I do think this one probably will evolve over a wee bit of time. Like I'm always saying, like particularly when we're getting teams going, is just enough design. Like breaking teams who want to design everything up front and go into huge amounts of detail. Like keep your world small. Focus on what you're doing today, and we'll work our way out. Because when you're moving rapid development, it's continuous architecture. You should be always refactoring. You should be always changing. You won't design the end state up front. You got to be prepared to, go in and change and move direction. I don't know many projects I've been in serverless where we've nuked what we've done after 2 or 3 weeks and started again. And just went at it. It's just the way of working. But your point is merely, I think this goes back into again domain-driven design and limiting cognitive burden and making sure that you've got your groups and your classifications kind of well defined and you're thinking about that the right way.
Like the team topologies guys really nailed this one around you. We're optimizing for cognitive burden for a team, and there's a certain ceiling for that, right? So, and again, this is where all the other principles really come into that, right? So we can design systems that are small, that are loosely coupled, that are event driven, that are deployed frequently, and that helps reduce that cognitive burden. It's not easy to get there. It's hard work, and you have to evolve and you have to iterate and incrementally go after it, but you can start to really optimize for solutions that do fit in the heads of your teams, right?
Yeah, very good. It's funny, I was just thinking that we wrote that as a serverless first thing, but there's no mention of Lambda or serverless anywhere in that list, which is funny, which I don't know if it's intentional, but it's certainly how we were and do think. Just before we close up, anything you would add to that list of 8?
It's hard to say.
On the spot.
We've been talking a lot about well architected, so and whenever I articulate these now, I'm almost like a modern cloud or a serverless first well architected team will leverage these principles. So it's almost if you do this, you're going to be towards well architected. The other thing I remember just talking there is about operating with situational awareness, right? So there's maybe a principle there around leverage worldly maps or other techniques to really understand am I going in the right direction, right? And business KPI stuff really lends to that and understanding that, but there may be something there around operating with good situational awareness. I think it's something that teams who are doing this and they follow these 8 principles would have good situational awareness, but maybe an additional one we could add.
What about maybe developer experience? Is that the team's remit or is that the company's remit?
It's kind of what it is. Like I can look at these at a team level. You know? I kind of feel like, Mark, with situational awareness, you've got stuff that would feed into these, and then with the well architected, they underpin all those kind of sorts of principles. And 100%. And for me, like I definitely think things like collaboration and working as a broader group. Because the one thing I would say is, particularly with 8, I was thinking with 8, build solutions that fit in your head. And what I say about that is, if you're working to the well-architected standards and all the other teams are working to the well-architected standards, portability and mobility of teams and being able to kind of move around and, and no surprises. So I think there may be something there around just, at the org or.
Yeah.
I don't know, but but well-architected is the how. This is the kind of the direction, so you don't have like well architects in here through security, cost, operational, and reliability. So it's threaded throughout it, but it's just this is how you do it, the well architected, but this is the tenets.
Yeah, I think your question about developer experience, I think the cloud teams with the high throughput of work really drives towards solving for developer experience. You can't have a high throughput of work and the deployment frequency if your developer experience is terrible, right?
Well, yeah, another thing you could put, but I don't think we were brave enough to write it. Don't accept per developer experience, but I didn't want to be responsible for a bunch of developers leaving the company.
Yes.
we had to keep our jobs as well. Like, want to entice people to leave.
But I think that there is that creating that environment for success is a critical enabler for that. But I think whether it's a high level principle or not, it's hard to say.
Yeah, maybe it really what I've tried to get to is around maybe contribution. In order to have good developer experience, they need to be able to contribute and
inner source. You need to be
able to do that.
Yeah, you need to give something back through an inner source program. Closing one, maybe that we didn't put is that idea of learning. You want to be learning as a team.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a curiosity principle there, but the team are always questioning stuff. But again, sometimes that goes wrong, because when you ask a team to do architected, they'll say why. Like, oh, okay.
I think a lot of continuous learning. We get this a lot with the optimized total cost. Have you looked at other options? Have you looked to evolve your stack? Have you, are you continuously learning about new features and capabilities that are available to you? So it comes out a little bit in that, but yeah. I think there's something there about that.
But are we curious with the growth mindset? There you go.
There you go.
All right, so that's the crack. We'll leave it at that. Good conversation. We'll keep that going. Give us a shout on the serverlessage.com or at serverlessage on Twitter or on YouTube. Thanks very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.